The time has come. I finally get to talk about Night of the Living Dummy 3. This book is amazing. I mean, I wrote a fanfic based on this book. I've included it in my Goosebumps Mount Rushmore. Yeah. I also think this is the best Slappy book. So what's the plot of Night of the Living Dummy 3? So basically, you have this girl named Trina and her brother Dan. Yeah. And they live in this big old house, and their dad, Dan Senior, used to be a ventriloquist, and now he runs a camera store, and he has 12 dummies up in the attic, and well, only 4 dummies get named: Rocky, Wilbur, Arnie, and Miss Lucy. So yeah, and he finds a dummy in a dumpster that he names Smiley, but of course we know it's actually Slappy, and that makes unlucky number 13. And Trina finds a piece of paper with the magic words on it that, of course, brings Slappy to life. And she brings Slappy to life just when Trina and Dan's cousin Zane is coming over, along with his dad, Uncle Cal. And Zane is, well, how can I put it? He's a wuss. Yeah. And when you read the book, you could see why Trina and Dan have tortured him. So, yeah. So their dad says, I don't want you to pull any pranks on Zane. And if you do, you won't be able to go to summer camp this summer. And Trina and Dan promise they won't pull any pranks on Zane. And the next day, Zane and Uncle Cal arrive. And Uncle Cal has this thing about him where he's always making promises to Zane, like his, like Uncle Danny, Dan Senior, Trina and Dan's dad is going to give him something like paper stuff. He pretty much likes to mooch off his brother, Uncle Cal. Well, how would I describe? Well, you know Uncle Frank from Home Alone? Well, he's not that bad, but you get the idea. Yeah. And just when Zane's about to unpack, Rocky falls on top of him from his door. Yeah, and that freaks Zane out. And then he gets slapped by Arnie Zane and up in the attic. And then one night when Trina and Zane go downstairs to the kitchen, they find Rocky sitting at the kitchen table. And then Zane finds photos of Rocky and his roll of film from his camera. And Trina thinks that Dan's doing all this. And then Dan says to Trina that it has to be Zane. Like, he's getting revenge on us for what we did to him last year. And Trina doesn't believe it at first, but she agrees to wait in the attic with Dan to catch Zane in the act. And of course they catch Zane in the act. And he tells them that he did it to get back at them. And the cousins decide to call it a truce and everything seems all hunky-dory. Well, the next day, when they get back from riding bikes, they find Zane's room trashed, and she has a dream, Trina, and it's so creepy. Like, if you have a fear of dummies, like, that scene will creep you out. And then she wakes up only to find Rocky, like, strangling her. Well, not exactly strangling, like, he's lying on top of her, and that freaks her out. And Dan is convinced that it has to be Zane. Like, now that they've made a truce, he can really get back at them. Well, then the Odells have a dinner party and it gets ruined. Well, before that, Zane's camera gets destroyed. Yeah. And Rocky is once again by there. And then, yeah. Well, Trina is now on board with Dan that Zane is still doing it. Well, they of course wait in the attic again, but this time they catch Slappy this time. And Slappy tells them, you're going to be my slaves. And Trina and Dan like wrestle him, they like tie him up, and they take him outside and they toss him down a well on the property. Well, that doesn't work because the next day Slappy appears back in the kitchen. on the yeah, at the kitchen table, and the dad is upset. He's like, "Why is he wet? And why is he down here?" Yeah, and then Trina gets the idea like if they read the words on the piece of paper, he might go back to sleep. And they wrestle the paper out of him. Well, Dan reads the card, and but Slappy doesn't go to sleep. Instead, all the other dummies up in the attic come to life, and they pretty much tackle Slappy. Yeah, and he seems to be put back to sleep. Well, Zane catches them in the act and rats on his cousins. Yeah, and Trina's upset that Zane snitched on them. So she decides to give him a going away present, let's just say. Yeah, that's essentially Night of the Living Dummy 3. So the positives. Trina Odell is one of my top 5 favorite Goosebumps protagonists. I like her personality. Yeah, she has good monologue. You see how guilty she feels for how she treated Zane, and you see that she wants to try to improve her relationship with her cousin. And yeah. And another thing, the atmosphere. Like the house, the Odell's house is pretty much a character itself. Yeah. Or, I go like, and you see how Dan Odell, like Dan Sr., like, you see how passionate he is for dummies. And if so, and I could see why he would have a passion for dummies. I mean, yeah. Yeah, and I think Slappy is at his best in this book. Yeah. You see how he tries to destroy the relationship between the cousins. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. And you pretty much, like, even though it does retread some stuff, the book, I don't, like, not as much as Dummy 2, but it does kind of retread, like, the first book where a character's, like, doing pranks before a dummy takes in. And it's not really, I mean, it doesn't retread as much as Dummy 2 does. Yeah. Now, I do have one negative. Oh, one more positive. I think the book is just as good as the episode. Some people say the episode's better than the book. I think they're both equally good. I give them a tie. And I do have one negative with the book is that I do wish we got a little more dummy action where instead of like all the dummies kind of laugh at the end. I mean, I guess it could be worse. Could be the other dummies not coming alive at all. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Maybe I might talk about the. Oh, and yeah. I yeah. I guess you could tell I'm a huge fan of this book, and I know I'm kind of rambling on, but I just want to let you know that I think this is the best Slappy book out there, and I say this is a good first dummy book to dive into. As I said, the dummy books don't follow continuity that much. Yeah, you can pretty much dive into whatever book. Uh huh. So, anyways, thanks for watching and subscribe.